Look to title and hook to document. I'm Gary Anderson, financial advisor, Anderson Advisors.
And I'm Kevin Tharp, elder law and estate planning attorney.
Kevin, in the previous segment, you talked about the fact that title was more important than anything else, much more important than document. And so tell us how these things fit together, title and a document. How does it work together?
So to prepare, plan when you can, means you can prepare for a crisis. And one inevitable event, as we talked about, that's going to happen to all of us, unless we are fortunate to be here when the good Lord comes back, is we're all going to die. And we're all going to die owning assets. And we all have wishes about what we want to happen to those assets. So it is very important to have this next part of your estate plan, but it's not the first thing. Again, remember, when there's prepare for crisis, or when there's a crisis happening, look to title, because that's really going to be the guide. That's the rudder that guides the ship. Okay. Now, what's the ship itself? It's the document. It is important to have a document. I'm not saying that it's not, you don't need a document. It's important to have a document so that you can connect title of assets with that document. So look to title and hook to document. Connect the title of your assets with your document. So instead of your home being owned by you alone, instead of your home or bank account being owned by you and your spouse set up a trust. Choose a trust as the type of legal document, and then title those assets in connection with your trust. And when you do that, you know 100% certainty you're prepared for a crisis. You know exactly what's going to happen to your assets when you pass away. There's no guessing. There's no, well, this set of assets are handled this way and this set of assets are handled this way. You know that your family is not going to have to take any additional steps. You know the government is not going to be involved or minimally involved when somebody passes away. And in this case, the government's not necessarily the IRS. In fact, in many cases, when we pass away, the IRS is rarely involved. The government that I'm talking about in this case is the probate court, because the probate court is a form of government.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've not connected the title of your assets with your legal document, then your family's going to have to go through probate. Title always determines what happens next. Coordinate those things together and you know exactly what's going to happen, because whatever your wishes are, put them in a legal document. So in preparing for planning, here's the choice that we all have. What type of document are you going to choose? You can choose either a will, which is the traditional form that most people are directed to. Talk to most attorneys, they're going to tell you you need a will. Most attorneys, when they're doing Facebook blogs and webinars and even radio ads, stress the importance of the document. Oh, we do documents. And that document that they stress first is a will. And rarely, if ever, is there discussion of how things are titled and connecting those two things together. That's why we recommend to our clients to consider a trust, and a particular type of trust called a revocable trust, because that revocable trust does not cause you to give up ownership. It's a legal document where you can express what your wishes are when you pass away. But it's also it's a legal document that allows you to go ahead right now and title your assets in coordination with that trust. So your trust can be the owner of your home.
You're listening to Truth in Planning, and I'm Gary Anderson, financial advisor, and I'm here with my co-host, Kevin Tharp, and we're talking about planning today. We're talking about the need to plan and plan the correct way. And Kevin, I think a lot of times people, they get this notion that planning can be complicated. I don't understand all this stuff. I just don't get it. And so you wind up defaulting to not doing anything at all because you're frustrated with it. And I can tell you from personal experience, me working with you, that you take the complications out of it. That's your job. That's what you're there to do, is to make sure that when things happen, it's simple. And we see families come in all the time after they've lost a loved one, a mom, a dad, a spouse, and they're amazed at how simple it is. They sit down, and you mean this is all we have to do because they've done this planning in the past? Are you kidding me? This is all we have to do? Yep, that's all we have to do.
And you've also seen it in situations where people have come into our office that are in a crisis or near a crisis, and they've not done any of this planning.
Yeah, that's the other side.
And consistently, the common theme that I found in 34 years of doing this, you remember I started when I was 12. The 34 years I've been doing this, here's the common thing. When there's a crisis, you're prepared for it if you have wishes and title, if you have document and title coordinated together. If there's a crisis and you don't have title of assets and document coordinated together, there's where the issues come about. Almost in every case, when there's some issue after the crisis or during the crisis, when things get more complicated, it's because those two elements are not coordinated together. The car and the engine in this case being title, and the car being document, are not coordinated together. And folks, you cannot do that with a will. You cannot title assets in coordination with that will while you're living. And so when there is a crisis, you don't have a complete plan. You're not prepared for that crisis.
And this is something I think people overlook a lot of times, and we know they do because they're telling you they've overlooked it for the most part when things do happen, and you give them the opportunity to be able to change that. And, for the most part, I see most people respond in a way that you would expect. Yes, we need to get this done. Sometimes people put it off. And these are the people you run into later who are in a crisis now, and they want to get things done right now. Yep. And I know you do it. I know you do that. But I know you would rather do it in a way that's timely, that you can take your time with it, that they can understand what they have, and everybody knows what's going to happen in advance.
I mean, I try to build into my office calendar with me and my staff crisis days where we have days where we can help people in a crisis. But right now, there's also so much that we're helping other clients who are preparing now to plan that your options are a lot more limited. One of those options is you may not get access to the help you need immediately when you're in the middle of a crisis because of the fact that you didn't prepare and plan ahead of time. That's one of the things that people say all the time that complicates things is I can't get help at the very time I need it. But with planning with us ahead of time, you're prepared for it, and we just show you just how simple it is.
And we all tend to put things off because the last thing we want to do is go into a meeting and talk about things and discuss things and go through a process. But I do know that you make it as simple as it possibly can be, and you do a very good job of explaining things, talking with people, understanding what their needs are, and you have that good conversation. And I think people need to understand it's just a conversation at this point. So give them your information as to, what they can do to start this conversation.
Gary, the best way to reach me is through my website, kevintharp.com. They can also call me at 866-253-6994 and mention that you're a radio listener, and we would be happy to set up a complimentary consultation either in person or by phone.
People that do this have a lot of peace of mind just by even doing that. So I encourage people to do it. I know you will have some peace of mind once you have that, even the initial conversation, because you know where you need to go. You're listening to Truth in Planning on North Georgia's News Talk AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.